welcome everybody to our big ideas session called Breaking Bag, Reinventing the Customer Experience. On your seat before you walked in, there's a card. This is for our blog at ElasticPath, which is called Get Elastic. It's the #1 e-commerce blog in the world by number of subscribers. Great information. I encourage everybody, if you're not on there already, to sign up for that. My name is Matt, and I'm the head of marketing for an e-commerce company called ElasticPath. Today we're going to talk about how marketing is changing and how the e-commerce world is changing and how e-commerce and customer experience are starting to come together. So we're going to do this in kind of a panel format. We're going to cover a couple of key big ideas. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Great. It's kind of a din. Yeah, exactly. So, far in there is Kevin Lindsay. So he's the director of product marketing, focuses on targeting and personalization, blogs a lot on Adobe's digital marketing blog. And then Linda is the author of the Get Elastic blog that I was talking about earlier. So we're going to go quickly here. So the first thing is you can win a GoPro. So pay attention and tweet really awesome stuff. And we're going to do a random draw at the end for a GoPro, which is here somewhere. They're awesome, by the way. Okay, so let's start with our first big idea. So the first big idea is the storefront is dead. Okay, so the classic way, we've been in e-commerce for 15 years. We've been building e-commerce sites for the world's biggest brands. So we've been doing this a long time. We think this paradigm is going away pretty quickly. This is 10 years ago. If we fast forward to today, the cribs cost more, but we're kind of have the same experience, right? Little thumbnails, rows and columns, descriptions, right? Just old school e-commerce. Go on Amazon if you want more of that. So, but customer experience, as we all know, all the marketers in the room, this is the most critical thing now with brands. And it's not just about buying online, it's about the influence that the digital experiences have on the entire, wherever they purchase. And you can see the statistics here on how important this is, how many people change to a competitor or change their opinion. Or purchase again if they have a great customer experience. So those thumbnail-driven catalogs that we've been using to sell our products for years, they're not great experiences. So I am going to throw that over to Linda to start off.
I want to throw the next slide up.
You bet.
Can you hear me? So really what we're thinking about is the catalog-driven experience like this versus content and experience-driven product page, which you might find on a branded site. So this is the Moto Air Brake on their branded site. So it's a long scrolling parallax page, which actually gives you a visual tour of the product. As you scroll down, you'll see different content, and really what it's doing is telling a story about the product. So you see their sponsored athlete. You can see that he has been getting really dirty with these glasses, and the value proposition is that it's all clear, and this is something that you can't squeeze into a product page template very well. As you scroll down the page, you see the product expanded and details about all the different pieces and really an experience about the product that you can't get through clicking through thumbnails. But what happens at the end of this page is if you want to buy this product, you are clicked away into a bolt-on store, which is the catalog experience. And so really what the opportunity is here is the catalog really is a metaphor for a paper catalog. And when we first started going online, that made sense. Take the paper catalog and move it online. But now we can really build, we've got the tools, we've got the content management systems, we've got the design tools, we've got mobile devices, where we could use the store and the in-store experience and the brand storytelling as the metaphor. And why aren't we doing that? Why are we still using the restrictive templates of the catalog?
Okay, so what does this mean? So again, hashtag breaking bag. You can win this. The storefront is dead. The catalog is dead. Whatever comment you can come up with. What this means, so we should be creating experiences. We should be using the technologies and tools to create those experiences. There's a great opportunity to start selling our brands through a much richer experience and not using the commerce platform as a way to tell that story. Use technologies that are made to create that, products from companies like Adobe, and bringing that together to tie the commerce into all these great brand experiences that the marketers are creating. Okay, next idea. We're in the age of contextual commerce. So, we're not just shopping online in browser-based catalog storefronts anymore. So the experience is spread everywhere, as we all see. So it needs to be the right content, the right customer experience, in the right form, in the right device. But it also needs to be personalized and contextualized. So using data like location, the information about the device itself, the environment that they're in, the profile of that visitor. How do you use that data to effectively create a personalized experience across all those touch points? So, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that a lot of us are focused on personalization and we think it's really hard. And one of the ways to think about it is, what can I do? What's the low-hanging fruit? And definitely mobile gives us a lot of opportunity, and contextualization is one way to think about that mobile opportunity. One of the things that it gives us, obviously, is location. When you pay attention to your analytics, you also get things like operating system, screen type, even carrier, and these things can be really, really interesting ways to begin to personalize. Again, we might not think of that as personalization, but when we do things that make it really easy for the shopper to do what they're trying to do, it goes a long way toward truly personalizing that experience, even without knowing that it's Kevin or Linda or Matt. And I think that, as we start to do this and think of, like, for my tablet experience, do I need to be offering a tablet-specific experience? Are people looking for the website experience? I mean, paying attention to your analytics will give you some insight into what works best. One really interesting example that I saw a little while back was from Shop NBC. And one of the things that they saw was, mobile's a perfect opportunity for that at-home shopper who's watching stuff perhaps on the television set or on the web. The phone is the perfect medium for that. And with a really strong funnel, they really couldn't understand why some of those purchases weren't being completed over the smartphone. So when they took a look at what was actually happening, they saw that people were getting really deep into the funnel. They saw that they could make a few improvements at the point of payment and in terms of the forms that they were asking their shoppers to fill out. And that's contextualization. That's really kind of looking at what opportunity does this particular form factor give me to really make that experience, just spot on and help them to be more efficient in that process. So there's simple things that you should be looking at. Your analytics will certainly give you some insight into what you should be optimizing against, and mobile certainly gives you that opportunity for contextualization.
Yeah, another point is, so there's mobile, but there's also social context. And a lot of retailers are thinking, well, how do we get the store into social channels? And we saw Facebook stores actually be a big failure. But there's a real opportunity to take the data that you have in social networks and pull it in to personalize the experience. Because a customer, when they're signing up with an account, probably aren't going to tell you all the details, like they like watching Breaking Bad and they like going snowshoeing. But you might be able to glean those things from, maybe they're creating Pinterest boards and now all of a sudden they're making wedding Pinterest boards. If you could have that API connect and tap into that data, you can funnel that into the on-store experience and even the mobile and in-store experience, just knowing more about your customers without them expressly telling you that.
All right, so what this means, for us as an e-commerce vendor, we've plugged our platform completely into technologies like the Marketing Cloud, because in there the master marketing profile could capture social data and past purchases and profile information, and then as an e-commerce platform, we could take that data and personalize that experience down to the individual, pinpoint marketing that we're all trying to get to. So those technologies are out there. Linda talked about APIs. That's pretty critical to make sure that you have an API strategy so you can pull all this stuff together and embed commerce in all of these different touch points. So, okay, so let's move on to the next one. So, pretty siloed in the past. We had our bricks and mortar stores, unless you were a pure play, and then you had your online store. And we're seeing those worlds come together at an incredible pace. So, if you look at some of the statistics, I mean, you know, a lot of retail still happens in the store, but the way that those purchases get influenced are at home and on the mobile app. It's social and that type of thing. And so, and customers want to do this. There's a ton of stats about, you know, they will spend 16 times longer in your loyalty app if you're using beacons to actually offer coupons. You know, stores that are using mobile from the IRM50 are growing at twice the rate of regular e-commerce vendors. 40% of last year's Black Friday traffic was coming from mobile. So it's staggering how quickly this is moving. So you really got to pull the digital and the physical worlds together very, very quickly and just create, you know, because customers don't think in terms of channels. They just, you know, as you all know, they think about your brand. They want to have a consistent brand experience across all the touch points and then be able to purchase your product anywhere along the way. So I'll throw that over for discussion.
Yeah, you know, obviously this is a huge topic for most of the people here, and I think it's also really interesting that I've been coming to shop.org for many years, been going to NRF for a lot of years, and we always sort of thought of NRF was, you know, the big retailing show, shop.org was the digital show. The two should just kind of, you know, stick to what they do best. But I bet, you know, a lot of you will be at NRF in January. I mean, there's definitely a mixing of kind of our strategies as we kind of look at this whole sort of omni-channel adventure. You know, it's really interesting. We talk about what does it take to sort of bridge that gap, and you know, mobile will be monstrous this holiday season. I think there's no doubt about that. You heard Sucharita earlier today talking about the different conversion rate numbers we're seeing. She talked, you know, quoted a lot of the Adobe Digital Index numbers that we've been observing over the past year or so. And I think it's really interesting that we see, you know, smartphone conversion rates are still hovering around that 1%. And for some of you, that might be just fine. The fact that, you know, the smartphone plays a very critical role in getting people into the store and perhaps plays a critical role once they're in store is really interesting. So, you know, as I'm driving along, you know, 280 or 880 in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I get a push notification from Retail Me Not, telling me, oh, at Westgate Mall, you know, you're close to Nordstrom, go in, you know, check out what's going on, or I walk into Safeway, and I get pushed an offer from you know, my Just For You app that says, you know, Nutella is on sale this week, and we all know how much your kids love Nutella. So, you know, I think that as we all are grappling with how does mobile sort of play a role and how does it intersect with our traditional brick and mortar environments, we have a lot to think about. And we've certainly all seen, you know, in the last couple of weeks, lots of interesting news around iBeacons. We hear that Macy's will roll out 4,000 iBeacons across their stores in the U.S. Huge opportunity to really personalize the experience for their shoppers once they're in store. Once they're, you know, taking a look at some sweaters. Once they're, you know, passing by a mannequin that might be, you know, offer some suggestions on how to buy that particular outfit, or maybe there's a sale or, you know, going on right now. So, you know, how we kind of embrace this is really interesting because it affects, you know, from that Retail Me Not example, it affects our, you know, kind of geofencing strategy and how much we push, how much is too pushy. You know, if we stay relevant, is it pushy at all? How much of it do we make a branded, very much a branded experience versus more of that generic, maybe mystery coupon kind of approach? I mean, that's all stuff that we're grappling with, and some of it goes back, you know, decades in terms of merchandising best practices, and some of it is certainly brand new. But from GameStop to Lord & Taylor to Macy's to Safeway, Dwayne Reed, interesting examples across the industry of how iBeacon technology and things like geofencing can definitely create a more personalized experience for our shoppers and have some pretty dramatic impact on conversion rates, especially when we couple these strategies with some of our loyalty strategies.
Okay, cool. We're good? Okay, so what I heard there was there are a lot of technologies. Start experimenting with the beacons, using the mobile, using the in-store technologies that's available, blend the channel. Probably requires some organizational shifting around, so you're thinking of actually, Pete from Forrester today has a session called One Customer, One PL, and it's a concept of thinking about the customer and just the profitability, customer lifetime value of that customer versus all these individual ways of looking at them through channels. So, okay, very interesting. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Reminder, if you want to go in on the draw, hashtag breaking bag. Give people a few minutes while we're answering some questions. And then we are actually demoing our technology integrated with Adobe's that does this stuff we're talking about at Adobe's booth at 12:30, and that's booth 713, and Elastic Path has booth 739. So encourage you to come by and say hi to us and ask some questions, and subscribe to our blog and Kevin's the Adobe blog. So why don't I open it up for questions? Did we have any tweeted questions? Okay, the question is, any best practices for making sure rich content supports a purchase and doesn't distract from it? So normally I'd say go take a look at our blog. There's lots of articles on that, but since Linda's here live, I'll get her to put her on the spot, and Kevin as well, to answer that question.
Well, oftentimes, the brand manager has really great ideas that don't necessarily translate into the consumer understanding or even wanting it. You see that a lot with web design, and it's often the ugly, boring experiences that people are actually using, like Craigslist, right? So, so testing is huge, right? So A/B testing and prototypes and all that kind of stuff, and don't marry yourself to the new designer experience. Drip it out and make sure that you're validating your big ideas with the actual market.
I think that's a really good question because it's certainly a tension that most organizations are feeling. We have a lot of great content, great assets, in many cases competing with each other. You've got creative teams that are building wonderful content, but you've got merchandising folks that are more interested in P&L for their particular line of business. So how do you kind of look at all of this? That's a big kind of organizational issue for one thing, but one sort of specific response I have is always take a look at your analytics. I guess it should be no surprise coming from me, but one of the things that we've noticed when we look at something called a value index, it's a metric that we put on different characteristics of a site. We've seen things like Zoom and ratings and reviews and video content have huge value index when associated with things like conversion rate, add to cart rates, average order value, those kinds of things. So looking at something like a product details page, you need to ask yourself, how much am I providing an opportunity for people to consume the ratings? Are they too far down the page? They have to be below the fold, or can they be featured more prominently? And again, kind of testing different variations can really help you decide what's best to do. But generally speaking, across the board, we see a very high value index associated with rich content, your imagery, your videos, your ratings and reviews, and so on. So definitely pay a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, there's another question here about beacons. They're everywhere. The show, all us vendors are showing them, and so the question is, how much do we push? And I guess how aggressive can you be with that? And it's actually related. We're talking about. There's a book coming out in the new year by Porter Gale, and it's called Resurrecting Trust. And Forrester actually has a good research report out called Crossing the Creepy Line, because there's the experience of, wow, they really understand me and they've made my experience better. I'll buy their product, to like, ew, that's just creepy that they know that about me. So there's a line there, obviously. So I think we've seen a lot of point solutions that come out that are just marketing saying, okay, let's do this and that. They're disconnected. So I think tying it all together to a cohesive strategy where you sort of place trust in the center of that, and building trust with your customers, and using the data in a responsible, common sense way. So that's my perspective. What do you guys think?
Well, you know, we don't have to always jump to the push idea with beacons and in-store experiences because there's also pull. So if you've got a beacon-enabled app and somebody's interacting with certain types of products, they can bring up additional content or, you know, whatever you want to build into that experience or loyalty. It doesn't have to be shoving things into people's face all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with what you said. You know, we have that opportunity to really personalize the content within the apps, and that's one way to go for sure. And I think that also applying the sniff test. I mean, when you walk into a Starbucks, if you get an offer that is for a, you know, a free Danish with your coffee, that might be very relevant and very timely. And so we don't mind that, even though it could be a little bit invasive, a little bit creepy, but I don't mind it in that circumstance. When we cross the line is when you go beyond relevance. I don't think anything relevant is ever creepy. That's my personal opinion on it. So keeping it relevant, kind of applying that sniff test, and again, looking back at your analytics and asking yourself, or asking the analytics if it's working. Really paying close attention. This is a time when, in particular, we need to pay very, very close attention to what's happening with these kinds of, you know, new approaches.
Yeah, okay, so we'll do one more question. Some examples, one of the questions was examples of big retailers that are combining content and commerce or personalizing well, or these concepts we're talking about where you've seen it in action. You can certainly come by our booth later and we could show you some examples, but...
So if you'll indulge me for a second, on Adobe.com, we definitely have embraced this concept. You know, we have customers that are trying to do a lot of different things on Adobe.com, and so, you know, we wanted to definitely be taking more of a storytelling approach, an approach that would quickly discover intent and guide the visitor through a series of steps. So by marrying CMS with e-commerce and really taking more of a content-driven approach to the experience, I believe we've done that. And of course, we watch our metrics very, very carefully, whether we're trying to encourage someone to buy a subscription to Creative Cloud or take a look at one of our digital marketing products. It's very much you know, we're not obviously a very call to action, merchandising driven type of site, but very much you know, bottom line oriented. So marrying those two was really important to us.
One of my favorites is betabrand.com. They do an excellent job at telling stories around their products, and their product pages don't look typical. They really, you know, leverage images, and they throw in video when it's appropriate, and their pages don't all look the same. Some have like literal stories embedded into them, so I really like that example if you're looking for a retail one.
Okay, well, that's it for questions on there. Any questions from the floor? No? Okay, why don't we do the draw?
You have to wear this around for the rest of the show. Tell us what's going on live from the shop.org floor.
Okay, the winner is Tara Scarlett. All right.
There she is.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you very much for coming to our panel today again. We'd love to see you at our booth or the Adobe booth, so thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show.